Welcome to TheFinanceStory.com. I'm your host, Vishal Krishna. We're a leading digital publication that celebrates life in finance. Today, I have a polymath with me, and often we're inspired by these people. I have Dr. Bhaskar Dasgupta, who is on the board of several regulated companies. He also advises startups. In the past, he was the head of market infrastructure, digital VC at Abu Dhabi Global Market. I call him a polymath because of the work that he's done in academics. He's a Ph.D. from King's College, Allianz Manchester Business School, and Brunel University of London. Studied various topics, of course, the East India Company, spice trade. He has studied terrorism and operational risk, and also financial economics and the impact of AI. Bhaskar teaches at 5 universities and some more in the UAE, 5 universities in the UK, pardon me, and some more in the UAE. He's on the board of several companies, like I said, and he advises 10 of them. In the past, he was in HSBC, ABN AMRO, and started his career with PwC as a principal consultant many years ago. We have Dr. Bhaskar with us. You've done so much in your life, such diverse leadership roles. You've been a CEO, COO. How did you plan your career? I mean, from childhood, were you always academic? And like you said, to do well, you need somebody at home to push you and to support you. Was it always like that from childhood also?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me, and thanks to Chantel for arranging this session. So, very, very happy to be here. Grew up in India, and as you can appreciate, I think all Indians, especially the middle class ones, are, as they say, tiger mums and tiger dads. Also because my father was a refugee during partition times, so money was a bit tight. And as usual with that kind of a scenario, education becomes very, very important. To top it all, my parents they are now retired, were both professors. Unfortunately, I discovered marbles, girls, kite flying, things like that. So my studies took a toss when I realized that studies were fun rather than studying for a job. So I think that's the key thing. I do things for fun. I don't have a career. I just have a series of fun-filled experiences.
That's a nice way of putting it. Did you have a mentor or guide in your career? There must be a mentor somewhere who gave you that spark beyond the marbles, the kites, and the girls.
Well, I have to say that I have constantly been blessed by some wonderful teachers as well as mentors. There hasn't been one, but then again, if I have to say who influenced me most, it's difficult. Obviously, the parents are there. My kids, who I call my cost centers, they are also some of the most influential people in my life, because the idea was that what will my kids say? Are they something that that I'll be happy to speak to and be proud of, and would they be happy? So what a lot of things I've done is because of my teachers, parents, and my cost centers.
Not many people know this, but he's also studied Persian literature, correct? You've done Persian literature. That's interesting. And that's another feather in the cap, being in the region UAE. Again, thanks to your kids and your wife. Did you get time to do that?
Yeah, that's right. So the reason why I went into Persian language and literature and arts was because I was trying to find out how the legal code in India developed. And then I found out that Persian was the, the main language used for a very long period of time in India. So the courts and the royal courts and the royal business, official business, quite a lot of that was done in Persian. In fact, Urdu and Hindi are very heavily indebted to Persian or Farsi. So that was the background of trying to understand where that particular language and culture came from.
I want to talk about your leadership skills. You went to ABN AMRO, you went to HSBC. So how did you manage people in your career? while your academic career was blooming, how did you get into this leadership roles that you did? I mean, you've been on several. I want to start with that, number one. Second, you had a thriving career in HSBC, and banking as such is changing so much. So, what are your thoughts on the future of banking also?
Okay. So I think being a leader, I wish there was a simple enough answer. And because there is no simple answer, that's why pretty much every day you keep on getting books on leadership that keep on getting published. What I would say is some themes come out, which I try and adopt. And for example, Eisenhower used to say, "Speak softly, but carry a big stick." Another one of his quotes is, "Trust, but verify." Another one that you need to do as a leader is to communicate, communicate, communicate. And another one is, don't be an idiot. Is frequently a very important thing that people forget. You also have to listen. Unfortunately, as soon as I talked about the fact that you have to communicate, 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 I follow it up by saying you got to listen. But yes, you do have to listen. And as I grow older, I'm tending to what the Dalai Lama said. My religion is kindness. I think those are soft skills, of course. But once you put all those things together, that I think is at least my model of being a leader. Now, over the last 5, 6, 7 years, I have thankfully reached a situation where I don't have people reporting to me, but then I have the joy of working with some amazing CEOs, amazing other board members, amazing startup founders. I would say at this moment, banking is going to go through some severe, severe dislocations. That said, banking has been going through severe dislocations now for 50, 60, 70 years. One of the oldest models that you could think about is the traditional merchant banking and retail banking in the early 20th century. But as soon as the Bretton Woods agreement finished and exchange rates were left to float, and you had the Big Bang, computerization started to come in from the 1960s, banking has started to get disrupted and evolved hugely. Right now, the big thing that is happening is the fact that the basic model of banking, which relies on fractional banking and creation of credit, that fundamental piece is getting disrupted. And because you've got cryptographic and cryptocurrency and virtual asset banking that is coming through, the creation of money is getting removed from the traditional way of macroeconomics and banking. So over the next 3 to 5 years, I think banking models are going to change hugely.
Okay, and it's thanks to crypto alone, blockchain crypto, would you say, or is it also the impact of AI, like you've studied? Will this lead to a change in the central banking ecosystem to a more decentralized banking ecosystem?
So several things, if you will. First, let me just try and address the artificial intelligence piece. When I studied artificial intelligence back in the early 90s, it was considered at that time hugely progressive. It's going to change the world, so on and so forth. And here we are 25, 30 years later. It frankly hasn't changed that much. Some things have, but not that much. One of the most extraordinary things that I think about is if you go on LinkedIn and somebody sends you a message, LinkedIn starts giving you suggested answers. So you don't even have to type it, you just have to click. Same thing with chatbots. That is a great example of natural language processing and how AI understands the context of the conversation and gives you answers. So that is definitely happening. Now, going back to what the central banks are doing, they currently have to face something that I would say is an extremely difficult question. The question is that you have fiat currency, which they usually issue and manage. The second thing is what we call as a central bank digital currency. And the third thing are what I would call as the cryptocurrency. Now, central bankers have to worry about how these three things work. Putting it in another way, if they launch a central bank digital currency, just like that, they will wipe out banking as they know it. You can't do that. On the other hand, they have to do something because central bank digital currencies do have a major role to play, in my opinion, in things like wholesale banking or international trade, etc., etc. So that so the pilots that are currently being done in China, in Jamaica, most of the central banks are currently thinking about is they are trying to grapple with this problem. The other thing that comes up is interest rates, because that is one of your major levers that you have got. And the strength of the interest rate, which is obviously driven by quite a lot of things like inflation, etc., will drive the health of the economy and the banking sector. So to answer your question, I think we are in an extremely complex situation over here, extremely complex. Now, when I started as a regulator or in a bank, my traditional perspective always was slow down, think about various factors, analyze more. Over the last 2, maybe 3 years, my thinking has changed, and it's weird. I've got gray hair now, and whilst you would have thought I would start saying slow down even more, I'm advising all my firms to actually speed up. Get your model out there as soon as possible. Get regulated ASAP. Don't wait to boil the ocean and dot all the I's and cross all the T's. Get out there. You have to be extremely flexible. As one of my great mentors used to say, one eye on the cat and one eye on the fish. So you have to move extremely fast.
I want to get back to your leadership again. ADGM, your role in ADGM, very well respected. You were there for a while. From there on, you moved to the startup VC space. What was the experience of you were also VC at ADGM. So I wanted to know your thoughts on how the startup ecosystem impacted the world in the last 5-6 years, your role at ADGM, and where to next, because you are now going to be a startup advisor. That's your current role, as an independent person or entrepreneur, for want of a better word, right? So how did that ADGM thing happen, your role there, your role as a VC, and the experience that's going forward now?
So when I look at what I was doing in ADGM, it was basically acting as a regulator, financial regulator, but also trying to develop the ecosystem. What you have to realize is that there is one extremely secular trend that is happening since the great credit crisis of 2007, 2008, although the antecedents were laid much before. Bank financing for SMEs has fallen off a cliff. Traditionally, SMEs or startups, when they wanted to have financing, they would walk into a bank, and the bank manager will look at you, take a look at the credit risk, look at the house or whatever you might have, go and ask your parents for their pension fund, and do a bit of withdrawal from GPF, and off you go. But since the global credit crisis and the capital rules, bank capital and bank financing for SMEs has substantially dried up, which means that the private capital is now playing a huge role. And that was, for example, in the UAE, and Vishal and Chantal, we talked about, and perhaps we'll discuss more about what's happening in the UAE. The mobilization of private capital to finance these innovative business ideas is a huge driver now. And that's what we were trying to do in ADGM. To develop the ecosystem, we brought in startups. To develop the ecosystem, we had a very, very interesting, progressive, fast-moving regulatory framework. we had the mobilization of venture capital in there. We had the huge support from sovereign wealth funds. So once you bring all that together, it just exploded. When I joined, there was, I think, one venture capital fund. When I left, I think there were about 30, if I'm not wrong. And a huge number more are coming through. An association, the Middle East Venture Capital Association, has been formed. VCs are coming in. They're starting to set up interesting new models. Venture debt is coming. Now venture capitals are talking about investing in tokens, so on and so forth. So the VC ecosystem has absolutely exploded. So when I look at it from the perspective, and I've switched my hat from a VC board member to a startup advisor, I say right now it is a beautiful time to set up a startup. It was, but it's getting even better. I speak to a multifamily office, I speak to a family office, I speak to an investor or a VC and say, one of my firms is doing this. And I would say 3 to 4 times out of 10, they want to know more. That kind of a hit rate is huge. Traditionally, you wouldn't get that kind of a hit rate. You would get maybe 1 out of 100 approaches would convert into second or third meetings. Now it's up to 20-30% that my firms are able to speak to VCs and other family offices. This is a great place to do business for several reasons. One is, for example, in DIFC and ADGM, you've got English common law, which provides the best possible legal framework to operate, and it is internationally recognized. The second reason is, obviously, it's quite tax efficient. Third is, the startups will come here because this is where the money is, right? And the ecosystem over here, whether you're talking about lawyers, whether you're talking about innovation hubs, sandboxes, the support for multiple sectors, whether you're talking about fintech, obviously is there. But if you, for example, take a look at health tech, in Abu Dhabi, the Abu Dhabi Department of Health has actually deployed an entire team from their Department of Health to sit in the middle of Hub 71 to bring the regulators and the doctors to the startups. Similarly, other areas, whether you're talking about Agritech, or you're talking about defense, or you're talking about e-commerce, logistics, they are booming, absolutely booming. And you get an easy enough visa.
Yeah.
So, and look, there is also a couple of other things that are also very important. Although startup founders and staff members don't see this, is the quality of life.
I agree.
The quality of life is good.
The quality of life is good there. I think the system is well regulated also, would you say?
Exactly. So both for people wanting to set up a venture capital fund, raise money and deploy internationally, or for startups who want to set up in the UAE, great place.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant.
Okay. A lot of young people write to us and say that they want to enter the crypto and blockchain space. We spoke about it from a banking perspective. I wanted your thoughts on why younger people are taking to this. There's a whole lot of trading happening, and that can be speculative. What would you advise these young people getting into crypto and blockchain as a venture, and also as a career? Can be very dangerous. Parents don't understand it. Parents like AI, parents like, machine learning, maybe those kind of things.
Let me start by telling you a story. I thought I was well up to date with crypto and things like that. As you know, Abu Dhabi is perhaps one of the largest regulated crypto jurisdictions in the world. And the UAE itself is perhaps one of the largest proper crypto jurisdictions in the world. So I used to think, that I knew a little bit of this stuff. So I thought last Christmas, I'm going to buy 2 gift cards for my 2 cost centers. Nothing much, £50 each. So bought those and I sent it to my son. And the first reaction he had was, Baba, why did you buy Bitcoin? Who buys Bitcoin these days? And my youngest cost center, she's 18, and she said, Why did you buy it from that exchange? All my friends are using some other exchange. What I'm trying to get to is that even a person who's supposed to know a bit about this and was helping regulate this market is getting surprised by the young people. Now, what I would say is everything is dangerous. Every new technology down the ages has been thought about as dangerous. When the cars came out, you had a person walking in front of you to warn people that there was a car coming. So, no, I don't think crypto and blockchain and Web3 and augmented reality, even the new versions of AI, that's not dangerous at all. I would actually turn around and say it's liberating. The reason why it's liberating is that regulations, governments, taxes, those are far behind. The technology and the business models have moved on quite a lot. So it's quite liberating.
So okay, you think it's liberating. Well, good answer. You're saying it's liberating, but they are dangerous because they're far ahead. That's what you mean. It has to be understood.
No, I wouldn't say they are dangerous, but the reason why I'm trying to say this is that for young people, this is the time they should experiment. This is the time they should break new ground. I mean, and I'm saying that. And it's not just because I'm just saying that because of some vague idea of go there and fight. No. It's a grounded go ahead. What I'm saying, the number of VCs that are coming in, which are starting to actually put money behind the table in Web3, crypto, blockchain, is awesome. So why is it dangerous? Is it because you are not going to get money? No, that's wrong. Is it dangerous because there's no regulation? But that's fine. These things happen. Regulations will catch up. Is it because that you might not get a proper job? What is a proper job? I never had a proper job. So no, it is not dangerous at all. I think it's very exciting times.
You know, thousands of expats from the finance industry move to the Middle East every year. You mentioned that there are opportunities opening up for finance for many things, right? We see, crypto, blockchain. We spoke about AI also. What should these finance guys look at when they see these opportunities in front of them?
Let me try and break this up into two parts. One is the banking and finance people moving into this tech-heavy banking finance sector. And the second is about the UAE.
Yes.
So on the UAE, absolutely. Sort of, it's a very welcoming place. And we've already discussed how easy it is to move over here. Jobs are available. Come over for a visit, go around, meet. Dubai is a great place. DWTC is starting to see the last number somebody quoted was about 150 major to be regulated firms knocking around in DWTC. There are 1,000 firms in other parts of Dubai, lesser number in Abu Dhabi, but this area is absolutely booming. But not just this area, Agritech is booming. You have logistics that is booming. So all these sectors are booming. But let me go back to what we were talking about in terms of the banking and finance sector becoming tech heavy. When I first started to work way back in the middle 90s, I was told by one of my bosses that you are not working in a bank, you are working in a tech shop. And this is in the middle 90s that this thing came up. Any banker at this moment who starts to think that technology is not part of his job or her job is sadly mistaken. Yeah. It is part and parcel of it. And if you don't be on top of it, I would say that the rate of change and adoption of technology, or more importantly, you need to start driving technology to get that adopted, is going to sort of, overpower you. But let me give you a flip side. It's not like people don't get it. They get it. What my friends in the recruitment industry, and I was speaking to one yesterday, was saying that as soon as a crypto firm, which is going to be regulated as a broker-dealer or as a fund or as an exchange, releases a job offer to them or publicizes, 95% of the applications are from bankers who are working in traditional banks. So that gives me quite a lot of hope that that people have seen the light and they know that this is the wave of the future.
Oh, that's a lovely, lovely interview and very thoughtful. A lot of these subjects I want to revisit with you and do them individually. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Dr. Bhaskar Dasgupta.